Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at feudalism from a raw food, cooked food perspective. Once again, we always have to look at everything from a raw food, cooked food perspective because we have the wrong mentality with a cooked food perspective. And when it comes to feudalism, many might think, well, why am I talking about feudalism? It's been 500 some years since that's happened, but it was a big part of our history for about 6 centuries. And it was a way for the rulers of the world to control the masses. And this is important for us to understand now because we have a modern form of that. It's the same concept. The people who've been ruling us have been doing this for a long time. They have a strategy. Well, let's take a closer look at feudalism and let me illustrate how the raw food solution prevents that from happening. You see, I've been talking in the last 4 videos about how collectivism and anarchy are on 2 extremes of the political scale, and how they cannot work in a sick world, but that's what we have simultaneously in a healthy world, because we don't have rulers in paradise. And that's what we have to understand, why the raw food is a solution for this. Because if you look at the 4 players in feudalism, we have the kings that own the land, barons lease the land, knights are given land by barons for military service when demanded by the king. The 4th player are now the villains or the serfs. And what these knights do, they use that land and give some to what we call these villains, serfs, for their services. And they basically take care of the knights. They feed them, they get them the food, they prepare everything, they do whatever the knights need. So it's a simple system that's all based only when we're sick. That's why we have people taking advantage of us. That doesn't exist in an ideal world where we're all connected. Why? Because if all of us had a minimal biophoton level, we wouldn't have the 3rd piece of that puzzle. And that's called a Progerian class. That's the military. That's the police. And this is what the elites use, the few who own everything, that's what they use to control the rest of us. Just like in feudalistic days, we still have a Progerian class. And what I'm saying to you guys, that if we can reach the tipping point, if we can get enough of us to get reconnected, go upstream, do the first of my 3-step process, that's the easiest way to do it. 3 ways to correct the 5 main mistakes we need to correct. You don't have to do my way if you don't want to. I'm saying it's the easiest, it's the fastest, and it's the only way we're going to get enough people to do it to get to the tipping point. When we do that, no one's going to want to join the Progerian class, because we know we're all one. I don't want to go work for those people and harm my fellow people who I'm connected to. You won't have that mentality. That's why I keep saying we've got the wrong mentality when we cook our food. If we don't address the root cause, the first big mistake we made cooking our food, everything else is a distraction. So my videos are based on simplicity. If we want to make this simple, we get reconnected. If we want to make it complicated, do anything else. That's a distraction. We're being distracted. Either we're getting reconnected, either we're correcting the fall of mankind, or everything else is a distraction. Now we have to do some things that are distractions in addition to going upstream, but the vast majority of what we're doing are all meaningless. It's a waste of time. It's a distraction, and it's complicated. And again, life is not supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be simple. And it is simple once you understand the profound implications that come from cooking our food. Now, a lot of people eat raw food, but they never really come to the realization of how important it is. But take a look at people who have embraced this knowledge, and they shared this knowledge, and they've worked with thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. What does every one of them do? They know, they saw the transformation that they had in these people's lives. I've had the same experience. I've coached thousands of people. I see the transformation where people go and where they end up at. And I know that if the whole planet could do that, this planet will transform and be the paradise it was meant to be. It's a simple solution. And what we have now is a form of Neo-Feudalism. It's the same concept, and I've mentioned this over and over and over when I talk about money. It's not about how much someone's making, it's about how much we don't have. As a whole, we only have a small fraction. And again, I admit that we shouldn't be thinking this way because that's the wrong mentality. Either we have a gift mentality or we have an exchange mentality. I've talked about this before in my videos on money. There's 7 stages of money. In 2 puzzles, one puzzle only has 1 piece. And that's the gift mentality. That's what we had for 99% of our existence before we started consistently cooking our food. We knew we were all one with one another because we weren't destroying the biophotons that feed our 6th sense. Now we're disconnected. We lost one of our senses. And this is why we struggle. It's so simple to understand. What else could we have done that would be the fall of mankind? I ask this question a lot of times, but to answer this question, you have to realize there's 3 stages of knowledge. And what I'm asking for is what is in the 2nd stage of knowledge? What did we do? And people always want to go back up to that 1st stage of knowledge and try to say, well, it was this and this and this, and this is why we did it. Well, that's a mystery. We can speculate why we did those things, but we don't need to know why to identify that they're a mistake and correct it. Once we do, you bet we want to know why we did it to make sure it doesn't happen again. And who knows, it may always be a mystery, but I don't think so. I'm sure it'll become obvious to us why that happened. But right now, the vast majority of us are oblivious. And it's because of this neo-feudalistic state that we live in right now. The same thing's happening right now. We got that 2 puzzles or 2 sub-puzzles in the 7 stages of money, a gift mentality, and then there's 6 stages in an exchange mentality. Starting off with barter and now ending up with electronic money. But it's all money. It's all the wrong mentality. We'll never solve any problems as long as we have this exchange mentality. Never. Never. It's a joke. It's a distraction. It's not even a Band-Aid on a broken bone approach. We got to correct the fall of mankind. We have to understand how important that first mistake is. That's why everything has to be looked at from a raw food, cooked food perspective. Feudalism, 4 players, take out the Progerian class, guess what happens? No more feudalism. Well, what happens when we get reconnected? Well, we don't end up with problems that are within our control. Don't you see? If we don't have a problem within our control, if we're not out of control, then no one can take advantage of us, and that's how we end up where we are now. Where we got all these subsequent needs because we're cooking our food, we're disconnected. That's where the money comes from. That's where the government comes from. That's where the media comes from. That's where all the brainwashing comes from, so that the vast majority of us have been bombarded with so much bullshit in our brains that we have beliefs that have thousands of references that support that belief. And that's why, if you want to learn anything, you have to empty your cup. You have to sit down before fact like a little child and be prepared to give up every preconceived notion because you've been brainwashed. The reason why most people think the same thing, they call that conventional wisdom, is because that belief has been paid for. It's contrived. It's been bombarded in your brain over and over and over, so you automatically think a certain way about some of the most important things that are important to us. Number 1, an illusion of scarcity. Biggest false belief we have. And that's all about feudalism. They want to put us on the brink of starvation. That's what they did a long time ago. Most of the land wasn't available to everybody. You had to have a license to grow certain foods. Couldn't go out hunting, and I'm not advocating that, but I understand we are opportunistic eaters. If there aren't any plants around, we're going to eat something, right, to stay alive. But the point is, they were controlled at that level so that they were starving. And it's the same thing now, and it goes back to what I've mentioned before. I found a common link to solving every problem that's 100% within our control, conquering nations, and controlling the masses. It all has to do with satisfying our needs. How do we solve problems that are 100% within our control? Well, we satisfy our needs. That's why we had the problem within our control. We weren't satisfying our needs. How do you conquer a nation? You don't let them satisfy their needs. This comes right out of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. That's why we enact embargoes. That's what we did to Germany and Japan. We did it to Iraq recently. How many, what was it, 1 million women and children died of starvation in, what, a 10-year period of time? What are we doing, man? Why are we enacting embargoes on countries that are flourishing when the rest of us are starving? Because the rules of the world are controlling everything. So that's how you conquer a nation. You don't let them satisfy their needs. You poison their food. You destroy their food. And then when it comes to controlling the masses, in feudalistic days, they basically really kept the amount of food these people could eat, so they were midgets compared to the people who could eat properly. There's a good foot difference in the size of people in those days because they were on the brink of starvation. Because that's how you control the masses. You don't let them satisfy their needs. Now it's done on a more subtle level. Excuse me. Where there's two ways it's done. One is you withhold the right information. That's why there's so much confusion around nutrition. That's why nutritionists are clueless as to what raw food is all about. The other way is when you magically alter the food and it still looks like food. So let's take a look at what's happened since the chemical revolution, how that is one of our 5 things we mastered, and it is now being used against us by way of a bad application. So one of the first things these people did was they started to grow our food on artificial fertilizer with only 3 minerals. The plants were sick. They looked like plants. They looked healthy, but they only had about they lost 83% of the biophotons. Isn't that interesting? We lost 83% of the biophotons. Raw food has 5 times the biological value of conventional food. So, look, it's food, it's magic. But now the plant's so sick it can't defend itself. So now we'll spray with pesticides. And what did they start using? DDT. What is DDT2? What is DDT2? It's a toxin. It's a neurological poison. It paralyzes these insects. Well, they started spraying that on our plants, and guess what happened? They knew what would happen. They were testing us to see what would happen, and they had the solution already ahead of time. Problem, reaction, solution. It's the Hegelian problem, reaction, solution. I did a video on this all by itself, and you can look at that. But what happened? All these kids were getting paralyzed. Polio! It's a virus! You see, our belief in contagion is making us vulnerable to bullshit. Why? Because we have too much bullshit bombarded in our brains. You see, we believe in lies. Those are the important lies that they want us to believe. Because that's how they can control the masses. That's how they can keep us under control. That's how they can keep poisoning us. That's how you control the masses. You don't let them satisfy their needs. You give them food that looks like food. It's not food. And let's put poisons in it. You poison the food. You poison the air. You poison the water. Fluoride in the water. Wake up, you people. Why do we allow that to happen right now? In this day and age, how can we allow them to put fluoride in the water when we know what it's doing to us? What is wrong with us? Why can't we get organized and put these politicians' feet to the fire? I think I said hands to the fire the other day. I should have looked up that expression. I still don't know what it is. But anyway, what is wrong with us? Why are we letting this happen? We're not organized. There's only one way for us to get organized. We've got to bump up those biophotons. You see? Remember, with biophotons, we have communication. Without biophotons, we have chaos. Give me a better word than chaos to describe our species. We prey systematically upon our own kind. What is wrong with us? We compete for resources on an abundant planet when we should cooperate and share the abundance this planet has to offer. Why? We're cooking our food. Destroys the biophotons. We're disconnected. We don't sense this. We lost our senses. Everything has a raw food, cooked food perspective. It's the wrong mentality. As long as we have the wrong mentality, as long as we have this exchange mentality, money's always going to be able to control the situation. We know we got to eventually get rid of that completely, and that will happen if we can reach a tipping point and get enough of us to get reconnected, because then our collective mentality will change. And that can happen very, very quickly. It could happen within a couple years. Seriously. This message is powerful. It could go viral in an instant. Everybody needs to hear this. Everybody knows somebody who's in pain right now, and if they did a juice fast, there's a good likelihood that pain is going to go away and their condition is going to go away. And I know because I've coached thousands of people. We got to wake up from this insanity. We got to stop letting a small group of people control and run everything. That's mainly being done because they control the money. They print the money, charge us interest for it. Now we're debt slaves. It's a form of feudalism. And we don't need to know who they are. It doesn't matter. We don't need to punish anybody. We just need to get our act together individually, reach the tipping point, and within 10 years, I guarantee you, if we can reach the tipping point within a year, and I can see that happening, I guarantee you within 10 years, we'll look back in horror and disbelief at where we were and what we were doing, how we couldn't figure out there was such a simple solution. What's the solution? Stop cooking your food. Oh no, I can't imagine what I would eat. Well, you're under the spell. You're under the hunger spell. If you feel it all gone, feeling down here in your stomach, something is wrong with you, because that's not true hunger. That's a morbid sensation. It's a withdrawal symptom from eating the wrong food. Whatever deceives men seems to produce a magical enchantment. Plato said that a long time ago. He knew what he was talking about. He knew we created cesspools and made doctors invent names for these diseases. Death begins in the colon for a reason. We got a serpent down there, so when you do a juice fast, you get rid of that serpent, that fecal matter that most of us carry around with us all the time for eating dead food, especially dead animals. And then you bump up the biophotons. Man, you crawl out of a rut you didn't know you're in. You're in for the time of your life. Go down below in the description box. Listen to Dr. Roba on day 21 of his juice fast. Lost 20 pounds in 3 weeks. Wasn't that much overweight. He's even a vegetarian before he started. And yet his cholesterol dropped 100 points. His blood pressure returned to normal. No more backache, no more headaches. Had no desire to drink wine or coffee immediately. Watch the Deborah Duncan show. Watch the transformation these people go through. Read the comments down below on my channel. And you'll see people doing this and see all types of different things that happen to them, because we all have our own baggage, so to speak, our damage. We've all been damaged in our own little way, so we're all going to experience symptoms a little bit differently. This is what's interesting about the problems we have. There's really only 5 main mistakes we're making that are causing most of our problems. And that's what causes hundreds of thousands of problems. But the thing is, not everyone manifests every problem. So people think, well, John, that doesn't make any sense. I'm making those mistakes, and I don't have diabetes. I don't have arthritis, or I don't have this, I don't have that. Well, not everybody has the same side effects. Take a drug, look at the drug trials, and they know 10% get this, and 10% get this, and 10% get this. Don't you get that, right? How can you not get the other thing? And then why do they always say flu-like symptoms, flu-like symptoms? What? What are flu-like symptoms? I talk about that in 2 of my videos, and quite a few others, but specifically in Healing Secrets Revealed, and Medicine is the Ultimate Tool of Control. So I'll add those down in the description box below too, and you can understand what colds and flus are really all about. It's not what we think. We've been lied to because they want us to believe in the contagion myth. They want to poison our food, put DDT on our food, paralyze everybody, and they convinced us it's a virus, and we got the vaccine. They had that vaccine ahead of time because they were already doing trials with monkeys, figuring out how do we paralyze these guys, and then how do we interrupt the process. This was done ahead of time. It's premeditated. You don't understand why I get outraged, because I know more than most of you guys do, and I'm good at connecting the dots. Most of y'all don't have enough pieces, and even if you did, I'm not sure you'd be able to connect the dots even if you tried. Why? Because they don't teach these critical skills in school. So that's why I say that most people are brain dead. When new knowledge comes into them, they got too much bullshit with too many references that make them reject this idea immediately. And then if they say, well, that sounds interesting, let me look into it, you don't have the critical skills to be able to connect enough dots. And then if you don't have enough pieces, it's hard to put it all together. But when you start putting more pieces of the story together, you're going to go back and say, well, I heard a version of this story, now I have another version. And guess what you're going to find? One version is just total bullshit that they fed us, and the other version makes so much sense, and it connects to all the other pieces. That's the thing most people don't understand. If you look at this intensely, and you look at both sides of bullshit that's been fed to us in the truth is so obvious, and there's a common theme in it also. And the bullshit's always just bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. So that's the biggest problem that most of us are up against. We got to wake up the rest of the people. We got to figure out some way to get our message out to the masses. All of us have to start uniting. We got to stop poo-pooing something that can help us wake up. That's why I get down on a couple water fasting guys, because they're poo-pooing juice fasting, and I'm sure it's all because of our need for money. They got to survive somehow, and they think, oh my God, if people know about juice fasting and think it's superior, who's going to come to me? Oh man. We got to reach the tipping point. We got to offer a unified message to the masses. We got to stop shooting inside the tent. It's a huge problem of knowledge. The few of us who understand what's going on, we'll end up saying stupid like, well, we know we shouldn't eat animals, but cooking food is wrong, or whatever. We're just bombarded with stuff saying, oh, yeah, you should eat raw food, but don't eat the fruit. Oh my God, the sugar. Look at the studies on high fructose corn syrup. Oh my God, fatty acid. Oh my God, fatty liver disease. Yeah, look at the studies. It's always on high fructose corn syrup. Show me some studies of giving fruit to people. You know what you're going to find? If they did a whole bunch of studies saying, okay, we're going to prove this is going to destroy your liver, we're going to put all you guys on fruit, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get better, not sicker. Are some going to struggle? Of course, because most people have damaged systems. The adrenals are down. They can't handle the sugar or whatever. That's why there's two groups of needs. And again, that's the common link. How do you solve problems? There's two groups of needs. You got to satisfy them. How do you control the masses? Don't let them satisfy their needs. Same way to conquer a nation. Just don't let them satisfy their needs. It's what's happening to us. There's a war that's going on between good forces and bad forces. And we got to get organized, man. These evil forces are thinking in ways most of us can't understand. Remember, everything can be put in a bell-shaped curve where we have 2% on one side and 2% on the other. Those are the extremes. Everybody in the bell really can't relate to the extremes very well. If you're close to the end of the bell, you can relate to those guys better. But the problem is the masses can't relate to how evil and wicked these people are. Where they'll get us to fight amongst one another. They'll keep the truth about how to live away from us, keep us in a state of feudalism. We got to wake up from this madness. It is insane what we're doing now. It can change very quickly. And the solution, it's you guys. That's what's so exciting about this. Look down below in the comments section below and look at all the great people contributing and sharing their story, telling what's happening on certain days, the good and the bad. Because we need to understand, when we're doing a juice cleanse, it's like climbing this big old mountain of health. And many times, we just go and never slip. That's how I went. I never had a slip once, not once. But I've coached too many, and I know they go up, and then they go down a little bit. They go back up again, they come back down. And sometimes that happens at the beginning, sometimes it doesn't. But we don't know, so what do? We take this one day at a time. Be flexible. Whatever doesn't work, don't do it. It's really simple. And what doesn't work in the beginning might work down the road. But when we're doing the juice cleanse, what we're doing mainly is we're correcting these 5 main mistakes. And then, at the same time, we always have to remember there's another group of needs we have to satisfy. Just like when we do a raw food diet, there's another group of needs we must satisfy. We might not be getting everything our body needs because of the damage. So always make sure you go upstream, get reconnected, go downstream, deal with the damage. We got a lot of damage control to do. And I've talked about that in my last few videos about how the political system, how the government, how these are subsequent needs. And we have to do downstream work for those. But the main thing is we got to eventually get reconnected and we won't have that problem to begin with. So it's time to get excited, my friends. It's time to do the first of my 3-step process. Go down below, click to a seminar that I gave on how to do a juice cleanse, a solid food vacation. And when you do, my friends, I guarantee you're in for a treat.